Rod Morrow joins us to continue in the good feelings of that Celtics win a couple of days ago. Plus, trade rumors, they're ramping up. Could Zach Lavine indeed be a Charlotte Hornet? We'll discuss it all today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube, where if you tune in to YouTube, you can see the Rod Morrow. You can find him on Twitter at Rodimus Prime, host of the Black Guy Who Tips podcast, former writer of The Game Theory with Bomani Jones, and making Doug's head just about as big as it could possibly get, wearing the More Thor t-shirt that Doug created. Rod, you are a saint. You are now Doug's favorite human, which might have already been true, but it is more true now. How are you doing, Rod?
Good, man. Like you said, it's good vibes going into a holiday weekend, long weekend. Got hopefully the Wizards tonight. Maybe we can, go ahead and get the advantage on that series. Feeling great.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, that would be quite the letdown. Hopefully the Hornets can win a couple in a row. That's Doug Branson, too. You can find him on his substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Also, you can text him, his subtext, get the depraved Hornets thoughts. You can find information there as well. I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio 92.7 FM. So, I want to go right back to Rod, who was our guy on site. Not really. We just kind of claimed him. But he was our guy on site at the Spectrum Center for the win, at watching them go to overtime. Rod, you're at a lot of the games. But I actually just heard Fred Whitfield talk with Mac and Bone. It's the Hornets team president. Talking with Mac and Bone that was like the biggest win they've had in the last 5 years. I mean, it's a lot. It's
I can't believe he admitted it. I can't believe he admitted it.
I know. No, he was admitting a lot. Great interview. If you want to go check it out on WFNZ.com. How big did it feel to you, Rod? Because the vibes were not great heading into that game. And so it certainly stopped the bad ones from circling all about with such a team effort.
Honestly, it was a huge win. It felt like an away game if you went to the game. Like as we were like parking and walking in, there were just so many green jerseys and just Tatum jerseys and all this stuff. The crowd literally was booing when we were shooting free throws. I have never experienced anything like that before, and I feel like the Hornets took that personally. Shout out to the former owner, and they really rallied. They played defense. Like the second half defense was, I don't know that I've seen that before. Even Melo was like locked in on defense, which is now like a weird thing where I feel like you just kind of raised the bar for me, because before this I was like, he ain't gonna play D. We just got you. Now I'm like, you can play some D. So
yeah, we know he revealed it.
Yeah, it's Nick Richards 3-pointer, right? It's so now that I've seen it, I can't go back. I need this in my life. But it was like, it was just like us against the world type of win, and the vibes were just great. If you're going to watch the Hornets beat the Celtics, I feel like this is the best way. Like in your home arena with them, with all the arrogance of the Celtics fans, thinking that they're gonna come here and stomp over us, and then just watching their hearts melt and watching them turn on their players. When Drew Holiday misses 2 free throws and just watching them start booing, and you're like, yes, I love this.
Yes, feel our pain.
Go ahead, Doug. I like it. How big was this? Did we undersell? Did we need 2 big dub hats? Did you need a super big dub hat?
No, I don't think we undersold it. It's a regular season game in November. Like, I appreciate some of the context, although the problem with the context is that so much of the context of why this was a big win is self-inflicted wounds by the organization themselves. Like, Fred Whitfield is probably right. It's the biggest win for that organization because they've been stepping on their for the past 3 seasons. So yeah, it probably is a big win for them. But for regular fans, they're like, great, we've got to win against a really good Eastern Conference team. Now go beat the Wizards. I want to go back to the arena point, though, because they've hosted the Heat, and we got a Let's Go Heat chant. They hosted the Knicks, and we got a Let's Go Knicks chant. Everyone saw the green jerseys. I'm a little confused because I keep seeing these polls where people say that Spectrum Center is like one of the worst places to play. But if you're an opposing team, it should be the best place to play. I think the people that voted Spectrum Center are all Hornets. Like they all were like, I don't like playing here because when we play big teams, they all cheer against us. It's very confusing to me, but I'm glad to see those green jerseys. I hope that the new ownership group sees those jerseys. And I'm glad that the Hornets are getting inspired by that. Even if it's, as a fan, I hate it. But as someone that wants the team to get better, I need those owners to see the destruction of this fan base that has been wrought by this team and then do something about it.
Well, and the Hornets have not been winning a lot this year, clearly. But if we go to both professional franchises in season right now, the Carolina Panthers are clearly worse with the way that their first overall pick at QB just isn't performing right now. They have one win. They scored 15 points in that one win to get the victory. And everybody made a big deal about, so not only was it the Celtics this weekend that took over, man, the Dallas Cowboys fans took over Bank of America Stadium. We all thought it was going to be like a 75-25 clip. No, man, it was like 80-20, something. It was worse than we thought, and we already thought it was going to be bad. How's it been for the most part, though, there at Spectrum, Rod? Because like Doug was going with some of those chants. Has it been bad for the most part?
So let me give some credit to the fans of Charlotte. By the end of the game, it felt more like a Charlotte game. You know what I mean? Like because there's a lot of negativity surrounding the team, and it's hard to just not be cynical. It's hard. It's like you show up and then you wait for the team to give you something to cheer for. Yep. It's not that vibe of like, I'm coming in with the good vibes. We're gonna push you guys into. It's like, if you guys are in the game in the third quarter, then sure, we're ready to go. And I think that's definitely got to take a toll on the players. And as Doug said, I hope the ownership is noticing this stuff because there's a lot of stuff people don't want to think about when they're watching the game, period. They just want to think about basketball. And I think it's been hard for Hornets fans to only think about basketball. So, but in general, I would say that the vibes are like, show me. That's the vibe is give me something to cheer for every single game. And maybe if they go on some type of winning streak or they rally or like if they were able to build some momentum, I feel like maybe people would change their attitude coming into the game. But right now everyone's kind of like as we walked into the Celtics arena, all the people who normally greet us were all like, yeah, man, this is gonna be a tough one. Like no one was like, let's go. Everybody was like, yeah, man, we might be leaving a little early, huh?
even the people that are paid to be excited about it. No, you're right. But that actually perfectly segues into something that we wanted to talk with you about, which is the reception to Miles Bridges, because fans did cheer for him when he returned. Some people were calling it a standing ovation. It was definitely a majority of cheers. Give us your read on that situation, if you expected anything different, and your reaction to fans cheering his return.
So we were there for that game. It was an in-season tournament game, and he didn't start, so he wasn't, which was probably the I guess classiest way to handle it. Because I think it would have been worse if he started. But when he came in the game, like people kind of erupted in applause, and I had the words of Doug Branson in my head of like, hey, don't judge people in this moment. I'm like talking to myself like, hey, I mean, it's an arena. What is there to do? You either cheer or boo. There's not like we don't have a middle ground in the arena where it's like polite clap or nod your head in acknowledgement. So they're gonna cheer. And honestly, it felt a little icky to be, if I'm being frank. And it was always going to, so I guess you have to just rip the Band-Aid off. And as one of the things about Coach Cliff that no one's really discussing about that Celtics win is part of that was probably putting Miles in the starting lineup, which is a good coaching move, but it makes me feel like they probably wanted to do that from jump and we're like, no, it's you too hot right now. We just have to take these L's until everybody allows us to have you back and not make a big deal. But yeah, it didn't feel good if I'm being honest. And I think especially seeing so many people applaud it as if like he overcame an injury or an unjust suspension. Like it felt like people were going, yay, finally you're back because you faced some obstacles that weren't self-inflicted. And I know that feels weird to me.
Look, we've given our thoughts on this a lot. I don't want to continue a ton. I wanted to get Rod's on it. But I think, Rod, you're right. In that moment, it feels icky as hell. It feels different than when he hits the game-winning three to help your team win. There is something else, at least of substance, that you're applauding, and that the team that you pull for, the team that you bought tickets to go see, that team just won on a pretty crazy play that looked dead in the water. And before that, you're right, Big Pat with the music in the background and the graphics all up on the Jumbotron, that's probably not the way to handle it. And so when they do bring him off of the bench, despite him clearly being a top 2 player on this roster, that is the way to bring him into the game. But there isn't anything that he had done yet. And so it goes back to your first thing of him, of the team needing to show something before you cheer, like especially in that instance, it felt like something needed to happen before for you to have any grounds to stand on. And at the end he did, like, okay, or at least with the 3-point shot, that's what people are going to have to wrestle with. However you're going to handle it, whatever, right? Like Lord knows time is going to move people a lot on from it. But it was at the beginning that I also thought, it was an awful look.
Yeah.
Well, the ground that fans had to stand on is that the team has been terrible. And the team has been terrible because they haven't done anything, because they've been waiting for Miles Bridges to come back. So, like, the fans are cheering because the organization really forced them to cheer at this point, because what else is there to cheer about? Is that I think it would be different if the Hornets were like, 3rd or 4th in the Eastern Conference, and then Miles Bridges comes back and the fans erupt and cheers. It's like, okay, well, what are we really cheering here for? But desperate fans
it feels
are doing
weird for that to be an irrelevant factor, right? Like that's the icky part, though, right? I think even subconsciously we go through it, and that's still the icky part. Is that we're bad, now we're welcoming. I hear what you're saying, I get it, but that I think dissecting it more, even subconsciously, we realize, still not great.
Totally understand. I'm just telling you the reality of the situation, and what annoys me is that you have people moralizing on social media saying, I can't believe the Hornets fans are doing this, that it's something that's like Charlotte based. It's like your fan base would have done the exact same thing. Yes. That's what sports has taught us to do. Okay? Yeah. This is what leagues want us to do, which is to care more about winning than human beings. That's what the whole deal is about. And your fan base would have done it too.
That part is true, because we've just seen it too many times in too many places. I still remember the Panthers basically just getting outbid for Deshaun Watson.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It wasn't that they didn't try. Like, these leagues do not care when it comes down to this stuff. I understand the moral balance of like giving people second chances and stuff, and I do actually agree with the idea of like whatever you need to do, like rehabilitating people and stuff. But it doesn't feel like that's what a lot of the fans are rooting for, as far as like a human being. Like, they're not going, I feel like this guy has made some changes and earned a strike. It's more just like, he's back, let's go, all right, we got a chance to win. And I think he said it in that when he was asked about it, and as y'all pointed out, is probably the most honest, nakedly honest answer, is like, I feel like if I contribute to wins, basically people will be able to move on. And that is the way that has worked everywhere this whole time, whether it's your greatest players or the worst. If someone's able to contribute to wins, no matter what they do off the court, for the most part, people will let things go.
Yeah, that's totally true. All right, well, let's move on and let's talk about some trade rumors here with Rod. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet. Weird enough, Rod actually asked us about a Bulls trade the last time he was on. And so Rod joins us to talk about the Hornets, and he joins us to talk about the Bulls. That's what he does. We'll continue that as we move on. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft, scouting the waiver wire, every week, we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. How about slow-mo, Kyle Anderson, Eric Collins, cover your ears. I know you insult that man every single time he plays the Hornets.
It's weird.
Cover your ears. Josh Lloyd likes him some slow-mo this week. I'm just telling you. Jaden McDaniels out for the week. Anderson should see a boost in his production to help fantasy managers. So, sorry, Eric Collins. Kyle Anderson is in here. And also, how about another Chicago Bull? Alex Caruso, another guy that maybe the Hornets should be interested in. He was inserted into the lineup. Caruso, an appealing fantasy option until he inevitably gets hurt. That took a dark turn. So get him right now.
Wow.
Get him right now. We appreciate do it.
You're just reading the copy
before he gets hurt. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or you get your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. More Locked On Hornets ahead. So I mentioned it. Last time Rod was on, he asked us, he gave us a live Sicko Satchel question. Knowing what you know now about Brandon Miller, this was like by the fourth game or something like that. Would you still entertain a possible DeMar DeRozan trade, something with the Bulls? No. Well, you're not getting rid of Brandon Miller at all. He's untouchable. He's right there with LaMelo. Untouchable asset. Nope, sorry, he's ours. But we do know that there was a report that the Hornets are maybe interested in pursuing Zach Lavine. And so we can make of the rumor what we want to. We can get to that conversation in a moment. But we do know that this is a guy that does fit that kind of bill. It maybe not superstar, damn good scorer, really good shooter. You know, maybe that, I don't know, not to be disrespectful. I mean, he's not the A-list. He's not your Kevin Durant or anything like that, but still a really good player that could, in theory, help you win. Rod, I'll ask you, man, like, do you want to pursue Zach Lavine, and what would you be willing to give up to go get him?
So, you know, as the unofficial Zach Lavine, Chicago Bulls correspondent of Locked On, I find the possibilities intriguing, but to me, it's only for like these the low asking price. Like I've seen the fake trade rumors, and to me, they're all so low that I'm like, well, sure, if it's James Bouknight and like Gordon Hayward, yeah, I do that. But I just can't imagine Chicago is gonna take anything that low. I feel like Rudy Gobert messed up all in-season trades for the rest of my life, to where it's like, you're not giving up 9 first-round picks, then why would you get this guy? And I think the bigger question for Lavine is something that, you know, has been aimed at LaMelo lately, but is Lavine a winning player, you know, when it comes to like contributing and making his teams win? Because, you know, as much as I like Zach Lavine's game, it's not like I've ever thought of him as here's a threat going into the playoffs. His team's a contender. You know, I've always kind of felt like he fills up the score sheet, which isn't bad. You know, we're beggars. We can't be choosers. I think he could help unlock Brandon Miller by letting Brandon Miller play the 3 a lot more than he's able to play right now. He's playing the 2 a lot. And I mean, we need scoring. Like that's absolutely facts. But it would just depend on on what we would have to give up, because I do think something that's very attractive to me is Gordon Hayward coming off the books at the end of the season. And I don't think we should just poo-poo that, you know, like so easily. Cause I'm like, that is salary cap room. And with new ownership, possible like free agency moves in the off season. And I low key am looking forward to an off season where the Hornets possibly do something because they have a lot of money, as opposed to, we're strapped in to Zach Lavine for a few years.
Yeah, what do you think, Doug? I know we talked about it a little bit. Any thoughts that have changed with a Sam Amico report that the Hornets have interest?
The Gordon Hayward contract is I feel like a Hornets catch-22. In that I agree with Rod. I would love for it to come off the books because the Hornets, if you even go all the way back to Gordon Hayward not signing the first time, and then that turns into Lance Stevenson, and that ends up being somehow Spencer Hawes, Miles Plumlee, Bismack Biyombo, Dwight Howard. Like, it kept just steamrolling into bad contracts. And then Nick Batum's contract becomes Gordon Hayward's contract. If that were then to become another max contract for a player that doesn't really excel on both ends of the floor and doesn't have like a lot of playoff winning, that would be disturbing. But at the same time, here's where the catch-22 is. If the money all comes off the books, I mean, Mitch Kupchak cannot wait to tell you that the Hornets can't be competitors in free. It's like his favorite thing to say. Like, he loves say. It's like he goes to kids at like an ice cream truck and tells them all that they're not going to make as much money as their parents. Like, he just loves like disappointing people. It's weird. Like, I just don't get it. But he says that all the time. We
don't have any all-stars on this team sounder. Yeah,
right, right. I mean, So then I'm like, well, what do they do? I don't know. That's where it feels catch-22 to me. And then also it's November 22nd. I feel like I should grab a calendar and just like shove it into the camera lens at this point. Like, this is exhausting if we're going to talk about this now, because Rod's right. The price has to come way down for it to make any sense, or they have to include Caruso. Like, but for the price to come down, the Hornets are going to have to wait until probably all the way up until the trade deadline, which is at the beginning of February. So we've got a long way to go, I think. And it's the idea of talking about a Zach Lavine trade rumor for the next couple of months is exhausting to me. I'm going to be perfectly honest.
Can I add two more points? One,
sure can.
I love what you said about Alex Caruso. I was more excited. But when I saw the fake trade rumor on Twitter, I was so much more excited about the possibility of Alex Caruso coming here, just because I'm like, oh, backup point guard. Okay. Oh, now we're cooking. Like,
right. Again, but that's the position that the franchise puts us in when they go into these seasons, and you literally, again, you don't have to be a basketball savant to understand, hey, the Hornets don't have a backup point guard. That's probably bad, right? They don't have a third string center. That seems like something that teams that are serious about wanting to make the playoffs, seems like a thing that they have. It's odd.
And then the second thing is, we're not on Zach Lavine's list. Like, the list that's been floating out there where he wants to go. We're not. But he's under contract. Somebody tried to say this to me. I don't know if it was on Twitter or YouTube, but it's like, this is not how NBA trades work, especially when you have a long-term deal. Like, I mean, if they trade him to Charlotte, we just went through this with Damian Lillard. I'm not going to play anywhere but Miami. Releasing things to his agent. We go through this whole rigmarole. Guess where he is right now? He's in the opposite of Miami. The exact opposite of Miami is Milwaukee. The reason I'm pointing it out is because he's obviously a malcontent on the Chicago Bulls. Like, he played great. They won a game and he wouldn't even do the post game interview.
No, not that he wouldn't do the post game. He's like he's literally physically tossing PR representatives around
He's
the
like,
arena.
Get off of me. So like I feel like his happiness does factor in, because he, it's kind of like the James Harden thing where, like, if you're willing to throw a tantrum, then willing to consider maybe you should go somewhere where you'll actually want to go, as opposed to like, oh, he'll get there and do the right thing because maybe he won't. But the bigger thing for me was the list of teams and that he will go to felt the opposite of the Hornets. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just a matter of like if he would have said like, oh yeah, I'm willing to go to I don't know, like the Knicks, the Wizards, and the such. You're like, oh, he doesn't care where he goes. He just wants to go somewhere and play. He was on some like, it better be the Lakers or the like I better win a championship. I'm like, oh, that's not gonna happen here, buddy.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And so for me, I think I have all the same concerns that both of you have shared. We talked about it a little bit before. That's a lot of money. And it's okay. You do have $30 million coming off of the books. That is valuable to me as well. you are thinking that Mitch Kupchak is not going to be here another year. That's thinking, same thing with Steve Clifford. So you're going to be as far removed from Michael Jordan as you've ever been with whoever this next GM is going to be. So that means you are going to get an entirely different way of thinking with the cap space. You're right. Bobby Marks discusses it all the time. Cap space is thought of as a downright good thing, but it doesn't mean that it always is going to be spent wisely. Sometimes it can hurt you depending on how you use it. But it is a key. You just don't know what door it unlocks for you. I do like the mystery box, though, that it provides. And so it helps us a little bit. You're not locked into the room with Zach Lavine, who is making over 40, who might not also want to play for this squad and then do the whole, I don't care if I have 3 years left of my contract, I want to force a trade. And then you got to be in a position where you may trade him for, pennies on the dollar or whatever.
I feel like as Hornets fans, it is our responsibility to always consider the worst case scenario as well as best. Like, cause him coming here and throwing some other type of tantrum is like, that would low key kind of fit the brand. So I'm like, I'm a little concerned that this guy is acting now and not being professional.
So, and here's the other thing with this report. So this comes from Sam Amico. I don't know I don't know him personally. I don't. Right. What I do know is that Sam Amico has had reports that have not played out quite frequently. I do know that a lot of other reporters that try to comment on what the Hornets are going to do have missed quite frequently. Yeah. So unless your name is Adrian Wojnarowski, Shams, who also might just be trying to bring more money into FanDuel. We know that from the Scoot stuff.
Right.
Or Jake Fisher. Yeah. Jake Fisher. Doug, do the thing.
We got a big one.
Yeah.
He's able to get. Or me, technically, if we had gotten aggregated a couple weeks ago, they would have been like, the rumor is the Bulls and the Hornets are about to make a trade, but they don't listen to me.
So, or our unofficial Spectrum Center representative and Chicago Bulls correspondent, Rod Morrow. If it's not from any of those sources, then I'm sorry. I'm just not going to take it all that seriously. That's what the last 5 years have taught me about this regime.
I want to go back to your opening on that Amico shot. Whenever anyone says, I don't know this person personally, you know a personal shot is incoming. Like the most personal. Like, I don't know this guy personally, okay? But he's an idiot.
No respect. No disrespect.
You know what time it is. Sorry, Sam. You ain't Jake Fisher. You don't got. I'm not gonna say anything. All right,
you're not even on the boat.
Is Alex Caruso on the trading block though? Because even without Lavine, I'm interested in Alex Caruso.
Well, so again, it's another catch-22 is that like this. I understand what you're saying about Zach Lavine and him making a scene, but these kinds of opportunities, like with Kawhi going to Toronto. Remember that. Remember what a scene Kawhi made with family members and different things going on there that broke apart his relationship with the Spurs. These opportunities for these small market teams, they only come along as a result of guys making scenes.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I know beggars can't be choosers. If they got Lavine, it's not like I'd be crying or something. I feel like that would make our team better than it is right now. But, if I'm all things considered, I would love to, for the first time in my life, to see the Hornets go into an offseason with some money and some new people.
Yeah.
And do something,
Well, and if it was Kawhi, right. And if it's freaking Kawhi Leonard, then okay, we'll take you and your malcontent and we'll have you do whatever it is you do for a year. But like, it's Zach Lavine. And I
don't know Zach Lavine personally. Okay, I don't know Zach Lavine personally, but he's a terrible basketball player.
And to be fair,
he will stiff arm a person from the team representative.
I know enough. I know enough. All right, let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We'll definitely have the turkey talk. We've had some excellent Thanksgiving conversations in the past. Before that, I do want to talk a little bit about the Charlotte Hornets honoring Baron Davis and, how far do they go? Should they go? And honoring more players. We'll get to that in just a moment. Now, before we talk about FanDuel, you can score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And this episode is brought to you by that same very America's #1 sportsbook in FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Now, a disclaimer here is that you actually have to, be right in choosing some of these things. We've been using FanDuel for Bet the Buzz.
Bet the Buzz.
If you notice, we have not done that maybe the last couple of games because
we're bringing it back.
After all, this is for charity. We are bringing it back. It doesn't mean that we stopped completely, but we need a reset, and we're still going to use FanDuel. It's not FanDuel's fault. This is user error right here. So
you want a line? You want a line on this Wizards game? You want a line real quick?
Yeah, if you don't mind, give one to me here, Doug.
All right. Hornets minus 4.5 right now. The over-under is at 242. They like this as a high-scoring game. Hornets, 2-possession favorite.
All right, I'm betting the Buzz there. I don't know if that's how it works, but
you gotta bet the Buzz.
Bring it on. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, even more than that. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season, and make sure you tip off the NBA season, as it already has. FanDuel, also the official partner of the NFL. More Locked On Hornets ahead.
Mark Williams plus 550 first bucket. That's easy money.
All right, before we get to turkey talk, we didn't discuss Baron Davis being honored last week. And so, that's your favorite Hornet of all time, Doug. Everybody loves him, man. It's so interesting. We recognize what is considered the most memorable years of the Hornets franchise with LJ and Muggsy and Zoe, all of that for sure. But, man, everybody loved Baron Davis in those early 2000 teams. They were successful also. So, Rod, and you said Baron Davis might be your favorite player too?
He's definitely my favorite Hornet. I got to play basketball against him once at a middle school, and he told me I had some nice moves for a big man. But that was after he stole the ball from my friend, who was a really good basketball player. He stole the ball from him, threw an alley-oop to himself, and 360 dunked it with two hands. And I've never seen a human being do that in anything. So I was just like, and it was funny. It was the season after his rookie season. So I don't know if you guys remember, he grew out his beard and a fro. So he did not look like Baron Davis. So when he first came in the gym, he said, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" And we were like, "What's up, man?" He's like, "My name's Baron." And we were like, "All right. Like, whatever, bro." And then as soon as he dunked it, me and my brother and our friend Sport looked at each other, and we all went, "That's Baron Davis." And he proceeded to dominate us for like the rest of that day. He was blocking shots that we didn't even know you could block. But it was so fun.
All right, so you can have in your bio complimented once by Baron Davis. You can definitely put that.
When he told me that, I said, I was in college. I said, "Hey man, I have your poster in my dorm room right now of you dunking on KG."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and honestly, a quick aside, it reminds me of a story of Hot Sauce and Spida coming to my middle school one time in order to put on a show. One of my best friends got picked to play against him. Hot Sauce crossed him up a couple times, faked pass it. He flinches, gets back in a defensive stance. Hot Sauce reaches over his back, pulls his shirt over his face. My buddy is like this defendant, and he goes and throws an alley to Spider, who comes in and jams it and then does his Spider thing on the backboard. And yeah, even if you know you're about to get cooked, you don't realize you're about to get cooked like that. And so there's no recovering from Hot Sauce pulling the shirt over you.
And that reminds me of the time, I got a story too, the time that I saw Al Jefferson in a Charlotte Apple store, and he was trying to buy an iPhone, and he instructed the person taking his order, "I don't want no rose gold." Same kind of story. Same kind of story.
It's the exact same. Now we know.
I'd agree.
All of that to say, Baron Davis, the honoring of Baron, the celebration of the 35 years, right, of the franchise's history. I'll go to you on this first, Doug, because I know you've been like, 35th anniversary. We got some stuff to celebrate. We're celebrating a lot, though. We already did this 30 years now. What do you make of the Baron Davis honoring and whether they continue to do this with some of the players in years past?
That should have happened a long time ago. Baron Davis only here for 3 seasons, but that wasn't his fault. That was the organization's fault at the time for moving the team. But Baron Davis represented an awesome draft pick that developed under one of, if not the greatest coach in Charlotte Hornets history, Paul Silas. and he represented the leader of a team that got this franchise as close to an Eastern Conference Finals as they ever got. Like, as talented as LJ and Zoe and Muggsy and as many memories as so many people have of that team, they weren't even sniffing the Eastern Conference Finals. That's Michael Jordan's fault. It's probably not their fault. But, Baron Davis represented that for Charlotte. And so, yeah, I think it's a little late, but I'm glad that they're finally doing it. And what I think is interesting is with Del Curry and some of these other guys in Zoe too, they've done these cells, so it's a literal like honeycomb cell that they put up in the arena, but they've done that in lieu of retiring a jersey. So I guess my question to Rod would be, is that good enough for you? Do you want to see this organization at some point put a jersey that's not Bobby Phil's jersey into the rafters?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel like we have players that are so important to us as Hornets fans and as a fan base that it feels weird to not honor them. I saw Muggsy walking around the arena the opening night, and he's still like a rock star to everybody.
Right. Oh, it's amazing to see him walk courtside. Like, he can't. Yeah. It's going to take at least 15 minutes to just move 5 seats down.
Yes.
Everybody, and he talks with all of them. It's some of that's his fault in a great way because he's sitting there talking to everybody.
I off air, I have a story about Muggsy I have to tell you guys. That's amazing as well.
Okay.
But yeah, like that kind of stuff, I feel like it means so much to the fan base. It should be in the arena and it should be honored. So yeah, I think we should. And Baron Davis is definitely one of the people that I think his jersey should be up there. Obviously Kemba, but I mean, if going all the way back to your Muggsies and your Zoes, because it's not just our fan base, they're also iconic NBA players that people associate with us. So why haven't we done this already?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think, or at least just celebrated them more in a way. And I do think, based on what Fred Whitfield was saying on WFNZ this morning, maybe they will with new ownership too. Like, they got to make that decision. I am glad to see that they're wearing the double pinstripes from the early 2000s. They're seeming to honor that era more, where it's usually just all early 90s. It's all, the further out from Zoe and LJ we get, the less they get recognized, and they're making up for that here, which is nice. That's great. All right, so if we had
do y'all think we'll ever get a Bobcats throwback night?
Maybe.
Almost certainly. I mean, no, almost certainly, because they can't stop with these jerseys and these throwbacks and these new courts. Like, they're just, eventually they're going to run out of ideas and go, fine, pull the orange and the blue out, grab those racing stripe ones, whatever that weird one was.
I still have Bobcat stuff. I want to put it back out.
Well, and the other thing too, they did the right thing when they announced the top 10 players in Hornets history during the 30-year anniversary. Gerald Wallace was rightly in there, and we were worried about, because he played for the Bobcats, is he just not going to have a spot? But he was there. So that was the right thing, and maybe that's the avenue for them to honor the Bobcats somehow. All right, last thing. If we were to honor Thanksgiving dishes, if we were to hang jersey dishes in the rafters somehow, how would we do that? All right, so Rod, what's going to be served at your Thanksgiving meal? What's most important?
Well, speaking of hot sauce, as you guys alluded to earlier, it'll definitely have a different type of hot sauce, but I think the turkey is clutch. Like, I feel like turkey is the center. It's the center of your rotation. It doesn't get enough love because everybody is in love with the sides and the skill positions, but if you don't have a turkey holding it down at the middle of that table, it's not going to go right. So it'll definitely be the turkey for me.
You know what I love about that, Rod? You're so right, because what happens is turkey is one of my favorite foods, and it's what I look forward to most every single Thanksgiving. And like a dominant center, it's not you bringing the ball up the floor. You do need to be set up, but as long as you're set up the right way, you're about to slam it home and nobody can stop you. So if your mom ain't a good point guard, you probably don't like the center on your team. But that's your point guard / mom's fault. The center is still dominant.
I don't know how mom got astray, but you're right. If your mom's the one messing up the turkey, I mean, you gotta make some trades for Zach Lavine. I don't know.
I'm just telling you. That's the way that the turkey, because you hear it all the time. Turkey's overrated. It's a dry bird. Okay, I'm sorry about
his mom's got to start making a scene.
Up.
Look, if they throw in Alex Caruso, we'll trade for Walker's mom.
You should. That turkey is hitting. It is
listen,
fantastic.
My mom make a good turkey, man, and it's just you can't listen. Everything else is complimented by the fact that you know the turkey's gonna be good. You can even miss on a few of your wing players and your skill positions. You can go, I don't know who made the macaroni and cheese this year, but the turkey is still holding it down. I can switch up the sides.
What you got, Doug?
Well, we need Mark Williams to turn into a turkey. We need him to be a big old bird there in the middle and soaking up all the gravy. Like, we need him to be that. He just has not been that so far. We need him to be a little bit more physical this season and turn into a big old bird.
He was a big, juicy drumstick against the Celtics, though. Yeah. Like, against the Celtics, true. He was.
It's true. We've seen it in moments. We're in an anti-turkey moment for some reason. Like, people are very anti-turkey right now.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's absurd.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't get it.
He's a turkey. Like, he's a turkey that is good, like, depending on the matchup, just depending on what's happening around him right now.
It's true. That's the thing. Some turkeys, if you don't do the turkey right, then some turkeys need a bunch of things around it. You need to get it on your fork with a little bit of stuffing. You need to put a lot of gravy on it. That's what I'm saying.
A little hot sauce, got to moisturing it up. It's all good. I love Mark Williams. He's just a second year player. Like, that is just, he's going to have ups and downs and growing pains. And hopefully at the end of this thing, we see him learning each game and like, his effort against certain teams. I think getting benched that one game, like, it put a little fire in him. And I think those are good things. I know people are really down on Cliff, but I think those things are making Mark a better player to be like, yeah, sit down, watch Nick do it, and then show us something next game.
Clifford is doing important things for this team, and we will value them, but he will be sacrificed. I mean, that's it's just a reality. You can like it, you cannot like it, whatever. I don't care. Like, eventually this thing is changing.
He is not the turkey that'll be pardoned and saved. He is going to go.
No.
As the dish is made.
No, he is not going to be pardoned. Okay, Rod, before we get you out of here, though, we have to ask you the most important question that there ever has been in Charlotte Hornets history, and that is LaMelo Ball a winning player?
Oh, God.
My God. Yes. I don't. Here's the thing about being a winning player. A lot of that depends on being in positions to win games, and it's the NBA. That's not really a one-man thing. Like, it's like saying Steph Curry wasn't a winning player a couple of years ago when Clay was out and all. It's like, what are we taking this away from him, or are we going, I don't know, when you're down 20 in the fourth quarters, you're not gonna be a winning player. I do think and it's weird because this didn't even come up in the write-up. The valid critique of LaMelo, to me, if you want to argue about winning plays, is those things where he gets frustration fouls or stuff. Like, you can make arguments. They're clearly arguments to be had. But that wasn't what came up in the article. It was just like, I don't feel like he's a winning player, and guys who win less than him, to me, are winning players. And I think also, I know it's 2 years removed, but the 43-win team is a winning team. And he was a huge part of that. Like, you do not win 43 games without LaMelo on that team, period. So I think the discourse got a little weird, and it was interesting to organically watch one guy's opinion become like a mainstream discussion by the end of the day. Because when I read his opinion that morning, I went, this guy didn't know what he's talking about. And by the end of the day, everyone was arguing about it.
Yeah, it was like a hedging, like, well, I think so, maybe there are some other problems here. It was a weird article. Yeah, Brad Botkin, then the bots after that, they all took over on the LaMelo winning player discourse. That'll do it. That's Rod Morrow. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Rodimus Prime. Make sure you check out his podcast, The Black Guy Who Tips. You can catch it anywhere you get your pods. And we appreciate him joining us. As always, man, have a great Thanksgiving. We really appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Go Hornets.
Go Hornets. Yeah, baby. Let's make it 2 in a row tonight against Washington. That'll do it. That's Doug Branson. Check him out, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Listen to me on WFNZ today. Also, donate to Street Turkeys. Text 44321. Big time helping the community. What we do it every year. LaMelo Ball going to be on with us later on today, so that'll be fun. So make sure you check us out there as well. Have a great holiday. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be back with you on Monday.